у нас естественным образом началась структурная перестройка.
There are also obvious things. It's data from European statistics itself. Living standard has decreased by 1.5% in recent months. Yes, by 1.5%. So Europe can or can't it? It can. Due to what? Due to further deterioration of its economy and deterioration of its citizens living.
Вкладывать деньги в развитие.
As for, will they manage to deal with it or not? You need to ask them. Of course they will. I can't understand what the problem is. The problem is expanding production in order to increase the amount of money that is directed to the war, and that money extends this conflict. But of course, there are problems, and they are clear and obvious to this audience.
У нас профицит бюджета в третьем квартале.
As for Europe, the situation is much more difficult here because if we can see that in the US, economic growth for the recent period is 2.4%. In Europe, things are much worse. In 2021, the growth was 4.9%, but this year it will be just 0.5%.
На пушки и забыли про масло. Это не так. Большое спасибо, уважаемые. К сожалению, нашу готовность к конструктивному.
Well, we know that due to the relatively cheap energy in the US and some other administrative and financial decisions, many manufacturers are moving from Europe to the US. They are closing sites in Europe and moving to the United States. It's well known. That's the thing I hinted at while talking on the lectern here.
Следовать в чужом фарватере. Все эти годы мы не раз предупреждали. Такой подход.
We have problems, including labor shortage, that's right. But then there are some other issues. But real disposable incomes of the population are also growing.
Никто не хотел. Самонадеянность наших так называемых партнеров на Западе.
Our Western colleagues, especially from the USA, not only arbitrarily establish the rules by which other countries must live, but also teach who should implement them and how, who should behave and how. This is all usually done and said in an appropriately boorish manner. This is all the same manifestation of colonial thinking. We hear all the time, you must, you are obliged, we are seriously warning you. Who are you anyway? What right do you have to warn anyone?
И такое понимание в России есть. Первое. Был момент, когда
It's time to get rid of this colonial era mentality. I just want to say, wipe your eyes. This era is long over and will never return. Never.
НАТО такая страна не нужна. Но не постоянная нарастающая военно-политическая.
Our understanding of civilization is completely different. Firstly, there are many civilizations, and none of them is better or worse than the other. They have equal rights as exponents of the aspirations of their cultures and traditions and their people.
В 2014 году за этими западными.
Our interlocutors in the West seem to have completely forgotten that there are such concepts as reasonable self restraint, compromise, and willingness to give in on something in order to achieve a result acceptable to everyone. No, they are literally obsessed with only one thing to push through. Exactly that. To push through. At any cost, their interests here and now. Well, if this is their choice, let's see what comes of it.
Смысла. Но, тем не менее, они продолжаются. Из арабского мира пытаются лепить врага. Наши западные коллеги, особенно из США, не просто устанавливают.
Over all those years, we have not only warned that this approach leads to a dead end, it elevates the threat of the military conflict as well. But no one was going to listen or hear us. No one wanted to.
Откровенно хамской форме от этого мышления эпохи колониального владычества.
The US and its satellites are firmly committed to hegemony, militarily, politically, economically, culturally, and even morally and ethically. From the very beginning, it was very clear that attempts to establish a monopoly were doomed to failure. The world is too complicated and diversified to submit to one scheme, even if it is supported by the whole might of the West, which has been achieved over the centuries of colonial politics.
Чаяний своих культур и традиций, своих народов.
There was a moment when your humble servant simply suggested, maybe we should simply join NATO too. But no, NATO does not need that kind of a country. No, But what else could be done? We are already thinking that we are belong there. We are, as people say, bourgeois. What else? There is no more ideological confrontation. What's the problem? It seems that the problem is in geopolitical interests and in arrogance. That's the problem, self confidence.
Здесь и сейчас свои интересы. Если это их выбор, посмотрим, что из этого получится.
They are trying to cast everyone who is not ready to blindly follow these Western elites as the enemy, anyone. China in certain situations. At a certain point in time, they tried to do the same with India. Now they are flirting, of course. We all understand this very well. We feel and see the situation in Asia. Everything is clear. I want to say that the Indian leadership is itself self directed. It is led by the national interests. I think that those attempts make no sense, but they continue. They are trying to cast Arabs as the enemy. They are trying to be careful, but overall, that's what it all boils down to.
Что касается справиться они или не справиться, это
Everyone realizes that in an international system where despotism reigns, everything is decided by those who think they are exceptional, sinless, and only right most. Anyone can be hit simply because by a country does not like the hegemony, which has lost its sense of proportion and I would add its sense of reality.
понятны, и эти проблемы известны. Что касается
Our economy has started to structurally reorganize in a natural way. Many things we used to import from the European countries have been closed to us, just like in 2014, when we implemented restrictions on buying some of the Western, mostly European agricultural goods. We had to invest money in agricultural production in the country.
в прошлом 2021 году, вернее, рост экономики был 4,9%. Уверен. Ну, мы знаем, что
Overall, we have a stable, sustainable situation. We have overcome all the problems that arose after the sanctions were imposed on us, and we have started the next stage of development on a new basis.
закрываются и в Европе, и переезжают в Соединенные Штаты. Это хорошо известно. Это вот у нас есть проблемы.
We have a budget surplus of 660 billion rubles in the third quarter, and this year there will be a deficit year on year, but only 1%. This is quite a healthy budget and a healthy economy. So to say that we are spending too much money on guns but have forgotten about butter is not true.
Больше, чем на 12%. Здесь свои возникают связанные с